The mall was louder than usual that Saturday afternoon. Laughter bounced off glass storefronts. Music spilled out of clothing shops, and the scent of pretzels and cinnamon drifted through the wide corridors. For most families, it was just another weekend escape. For Marcus Reed, it was supposed to be a small victory. He had promised his children something simple: shoes, he had said that morning, smiling as he tied his youngest son's laces. Just shoes and maybe ice cream if we behave. His daughter, Olea, 8 years old and already far too observant for her age, had raised an eyebrow. "You say that every time, Dad." Marcus laughed. "And every time I mean it." Was a tall black man in his mid-30s, broad-shouldered, calm-spoken, wearing jeans, sneakers, and a faded hoodie that still smelled faintly of laundry detergent. He worked 2 jobs, warehouse nights and delivery mornings, doing whatever it took to keep life steady for his kids since their mother passed away 3 years earlier. Steady was the goal. Always steady. Inside the shoe store, his youngest, Eli, hopped from foot to foot while trying on sneakers that lit up when he walked. Marcus crouched down, clapping softly. "Those look fast," he said. Eli grinned. "I'm gonna run faster than you." Olea stood beside her father, holding a shoebox and watching the mirror. She noticed at first the way the store manager glanced at Marcus, then looked away too quickly. The way a security guard paused near the entrance, pretending to adjust his radio. Her stomach tightened. Marcus felt it too. That familiar, quiet awareness. The one that never left. He ignored it. He always did. They paid. Marcus thanked the cashier. They stepped back into the open mall, shopping bags swinging gently at his side. That was when the voice came. "Sir, stop right there." Marcus froze. Slowly, carefully, turned around. 2 uniformed mall security officers stood behind him. One had his hand resting near his belt. The other already had his radio raised. "Yes," Marcus said calmly. "We've had a report," the taller guard said. "You need to come with us." "For what?" Marcus asked. Alia's fingers tightened around her father's sleeve. "Daddy?" Marcus didn't look away from the guards. "I'm here with my kids." "We'll make it quick," the guard replied. "Hands behind your back." The words hit the air like a slap. Shoppers slowed. Phones tilted upward. Whispers spread. Marcus felt his heart pounding, but his voice stayed level. "I haven't done anything, sir. Do not resist." Eli started to cry. "Daddy?" Marcus knelt instantly, turning his back to the guards just enough to look his children in the eyes. "Hey," he said softly. "Look at me. Everything is okay." Elias' eyes were filling with tears, but she nodded. She had learned young how to be strong. The guards grabbed Marcus's arms. Cold. Metal snapped shut around his wrists. The sound echoed. That was when the mall truly went silent. People stared. Some looked uncomfortable, others curious. Few nodded. As if this was expected, Alia's voice broke through the noise. "Why are you doing this?" "He didn't do anything." One guard snapped. "Ma'am, step back." "She's a child," Marcus said, his voice suddenly firm. "Do not speak to her like that." The guard hesitated. Phones were recording now. "Clear, close." Marcus was led forward, his children left standing behind him. "Daddy." Eli screamed. Marcus turned his head just enough to speak over his shoulder. "Olea," he said calmly, "hold your brother's hand." She did. "At me," Marcus said. "Remember what I told you?" Her voice shook. "Stay calm. Stay kind." Marcus nodded. "No matter what happens." They walked him through the mall, past the ice cream shop, past the benches, past the same people who had laughed minutes earlier. Humiliation. Burned, but something else burned stronger. Resolve. In the security office, they sat him down. The door closed. The noise of the mall vanished. "You matched the description?" one guard said flatly. "Description of what?" Marcus asked. "Shoplifting." Earlier today, Marcus stared at him. "You just watched me pay," the guard avoided. His eyes. Minutes passed. Then something unexpected happened. A knock. Another guard entered, holding a tablet. His face was pale. Sir, he said quietly. You need to see this. He turned the screen around. It was a video. Aaliyah standing in the mall corridor, speaking clearly into a phone camera. My name is Aaliyah Reed, she said, her small voice steady. That man you arrested is my dad. He works hard. He teaches us to be kind. And he didn't steal anything. People had gathered behind her. Lots of people, adults, strangers, listening. The guard swallowed. Outside that small room, something had begun, and it was bigger than any of them expected. The first sign of resistance didn't come as shouting. It came as silence. Marcus noticed it the morning. After his third public talk, the invitation list stopped growing. Emails that had once replied within minutes now sat unread. Scheduled interview with a national network was postponed indefinitely. Dr. Elena Brooks noticed it too. They're hoping this fades, she said calmly, sliding a tablet across the table. Institutions don't like mirrors, especially when children hold them. Marcus sighed. I never wanted a spotlight. Lena met his eyes. Spotlights aren't chosen. They find you. Across the city and, then across the country, people were watching something strange unfold. Not riots, not speeches, not anger. Consistency. Marcus showed up everywhere the same. Way, calm, clear, human, and that terrified people who relied on chaos to justify control. A private email leaked 2 days later from a corporate risk consultant to a mall conglomerate. The Reed situation is dangerous not because of outrage, but because of optics. He doesn't look radical. He looks reasonable. The leak went viral suddenly. The narrative shifted. Commentators stopped asking what happened and started asking why this keeps happening. Panels filled with experts who had never lived it. Think pieces argued semantics. Trolls crawled out from every corner of the internet, calling Marcus a plant, an actor, a liar. Aaliyah saw one of the comments. Daddy. She asked quietly, why are they mad at you for being nice? Marcus didn't answer right away, because the truth was heavy. Sometimes, he said slowly, people are more comfortable with anger than with truth. At school, things changed. Aaliyah's teacher pulled Marcus aside one afternoon. Your daughter, she corrects adults now, politely. But firmly, Marcus smiled faintly. I taught her to stand straight. The teacher hesitated. Some parents have complained about what? She makes their children ask. Uncomfortable questions? Marcus nodded. Good. The pressure escalated. An anonymous complaint was filed against Marcus's employer. Then another. HR requested clarifications. His supervisor avoided eye contact. Alina was blunt. They're trying to make an example of you quietly. So what do we do? Marcus asked. She leaned forward. We don't get louder. We get smarter. They organize something new. Not a protest. A forum. No chants. No signs. No slogans. Just people telling their stories 5 minutes each while cameras rolled. Parents, veterans, teachers, retail workers, teenagers. Every story different, every pattern the same. The forum was called Still Standing. It aired live online at first. Viewership was modest. Then a retired security officer spoke. I was trained to look for threats, the man said, voice shaking. Nobody taught me how to look for people. That clip hit 20 million views. Overnight, then came the moment nobody expected. A uniformed police captain requested to speak live. I don't agree with everything said here, she began. But I can't deny this: when systems stop listening, they rot. The comments froze, not exploded. Froze that night. A federal oversight committee announced a review of private security practices nationwide. No one mentioned Marcus by name. Everyone knew why. Behind closed doors, executives panicked. This wasn't rebellion. This was credibility erosion, and credibility once lost doesn't return with force. Aaliyah wrote another sentence in her notebook. They are afraid because we are calm. Weeks later, Marcus received a letter. Handwritten, no return address. I was the guard who stood there that day. I didn't stop it. I see my daughter in yours. I'm sorry. Marcus sat with the letter for a long time. Then he folded it carefully and placed it in Aaliyah's notebook. Why? she asked, because he said change begins when someone admits they were wrong. The backlash didn't disappear, but it weakened. Sponsors withdrew quietly. Training manuals were rewritten, policies updated. Language softened. Not enough, but more than before. One evening, Marcus stood at the kitchen window, city lights blinking beyond the glass. "I'm tired," he admitted to Elena over the phone. "No," she said gently. "That means it's working." "Will it last?" Elena paused. "That depends on what? On whether people realize this was never about you?" Marcus watched Aaliyah help Eli with homework at the table. "It was about all of us," he said. "Yes," Elena replied. "And once people see that power, it doesn't get to look away anymore." The next morning, a headline appeared on screens across the world. "The age of quiet witness is over." Marcus closed his laptop. He didn't smile. He didn't celebrate. He walked his kids to school, held their hands, and stood a little taller. Because humanity doesn't always rise with fire. Sometimes it rises with restraint. The apology arrived at 9:03 a.m. It wasn't loud. It wasn't sincere. It was polished. A press release from the National Association of Private Security Services filled inboxes across the country. "We acknowledge concerns raised by recent events and are committed to reviewing our policies to ensure fairness, professionalism, and public trust. No names, no responsibility. No timeline. Just words shaped to slide off accountability." Elena read it twice, then set her tablet down. "There. Apologizing to an idea," she said, "not to people." Marcus exhaled slowly. "So they think this ends it. They're hoping it dulls it." Online reaction was immediate. Some called it progress. Others called it cowardice. But the most dangerous response was the third kind: relief. People wanted to move on. Marcus felt it in the room during the next forum session. The stories were still powerful, but the urgency had softened. Aaliyah noticed too. "Daddy," she whispered after one speaker finished, "they're clapping like it's over." Marcus looked around. She was right. That night, Marcus couldn't sleep. He wasn't angry. He was unsettled. The system had learned how to survive criticism without changing. That was worse. The next morning, Lena called early. "They've invited you," she said. "Who has?" "The Oversight Committee. Closed-door session. No press." Marcus sat up. "Why closed?" "So they can say they listened, without being seen." Marcus was quiet for a long moment, then, "I'll go." The room was glass and steel designed to look transparent while hiding everything. 7 committee members sat around a polished table. Marcus sat alone on one side. The chairwoman smiled professionally. "Mr. Reed, thank you for coming. We want you to know we hear you." Marcus nodded. "Then I'll speak plainly," she gestured. "Please, you've reviewed policies," he said calmly. "You've issued apologies. You've promised training." Several heads nodded, but Marcus continued. "You haven't changed power. You've only adjusted language." The smile tightened. A man in a gray suit leaned forward. "Change takes time." Marcus met his eyes. "So does trust. And you've been spending it like it's renewable." The room went still. "I didn't come here to be symbolic," Marcus said. "I came to ask for something measurable." The chairwoman folded her hands. "What exactly are you asking?" Marcus took a breath. "Independent oversight. Public data, clear consequences, and a civilian review board with real authority." Someone scoffed quietly. "That's ambitious." Marcus didn't flinch. So was believing you could operate without being questioned forever. Silence stretched. Finally, the chairwoman spoke. "We'll take this under advisement." Marcus stood. "No," he said softly. "You won't." They looked up, surprised. "You'll respond within 30 days, Marcus continued. "In writing, with specifics. Or the public will assume this apology was theater." It sounds like a threat, someone snapped. Marcus shook his head. "It's a promise. From people who are watching." He left the room without waiting. "For permission?" Outside, Alina was pacing. "How'd it go?" Marcus smiled faintly. They didn't like it. Good, she said. That means it mattered. The committee underestimated one thing. They thought visibility had peaked. It hadn't. Alia's notebook has found its way online. Not leaked. Shared. A teacher posted a picture with permission of a page written in careful handwriting. An apology. Without change is just practice for lying better. The quote exploded. Printed on posters. Shared in classrooms. Quoted by journalists, the system tried to distance itself. It's inappropriate to involve children, the spokesperson said. That backfired instantly, because people remembered. This began with children. Schools held assemblies. Companies revised codes of conduct. Cities passed ordinances requiring transparency from private security contractors. Small wins. Real ones. One evening. Marcus sat with Aaliyah on the porch. Are you scared? She asked. Sometimes, he admitted. Me too, she said. But I think they're more scared. Marcus smiled. Why? Because we didn't yell? He laughed quietly. That might be the bravest thing. 30 days passed. On the 30th day, a document was released. Not perfect, but undeniable. Oversight. Data reporting. External review boards. The apology had been forced to grow. Teeth, Marcus read the document twice. Then he closed the laptop. It's not enough, Alina said carefully. No, Marcus agreed. But it's proof of what? That calm pressure works. Outside, the world didn't cheer. It adjusted. And systems fear that more than outrage. The question came from the smallest. Voice in the room? It wasn't planned. It wasn't dramatic. It didn't echo with authority. It was asked because a child genuinely wanted to understand. Aaliyah stood at the front of her school auditorium, fingers wrapped tightly around a folded piece of paper she never unfolded. The room was full parents. Teachers, local officials, even a few reporters who had learned that when this family spoke, something honest followed. Marcus sat in the second row, hands clasped, heart heavier than it had been in months. Aaliyah stepped closer to the microphone. She took a breath and asked, Why do systems say sorry? They don't plan to change. The room didn't react. It absorbed. A city councilman shifted in his seat. A teacher swallowed. A journalist slowly lowered their camera. Aaliyah continued. Voice steady. My dad says people make rules to keep things safe. But sometimes rules forget people. When that happens, who fixes the rules? Silence. Not the uncomfortable kind. The thinking kind. Marcus felt it then. The realization that had been circling him for months. This was never about him. He hadn't been the spark. He had been the proof. After the assembly, people didn't rush the stage. They lined up to talk. To listen. To admit things they had never said out loud. A security supervisor approached Marcus quietly. I changed how I train my team, the man said. Because of you. Marcus nodded. Because of her. The man followed his gaze to Aaliyah. Weeks turned into months. The forums became self-sustaining. Communities hosted them without permission or branding. People learned how to speak without performing. Schools adopted new curriculum, titled after movements, but after values, accountability, presence, human impact. Marcus stepped back, deliberately. He declined interviews, passed invitations too. Others redirected attention. Because movements don't survive heroes, they survive participants. One evening, Marcus found Alia on the porch again, writing in her notebook. Do you still write the same sentence? He asked. She smiled and turned the page. A new one was written now. Power changes when it's asked the right questions. Marcus sat beside her. You know, he said, some people will forget my name. That's okay, Aaliyah replied. They'll remember the question. Across the country, policy changes slowed. That was expected. What didn't slow was behavior. Managers paused before making assumptions. The teachers intervened earlier. Guards hesitated not out of fear, but awareness. Something had shifted beneath the surface. The quiet kind. Years later, Marcus watched from the back of a university lecture hall. Aaliyah stood at the podium, older now, taller, still calm. She didn't shout, she didn't accuse. She asked questions, and the world leaned forward. Marcus smiled not with pride, but with peace, because humanity doesn't always ascend in fire or war or victory speeches. Sometimes, humanity ascends the moment someone asks a question that power can never unhear. The question came from the smallest voice in the room. It wasn't planned, it wasn't dramatic, it didn't echo with authority. It was asked because a child genuinely wanted to understand. Aaliyah stood at the front of her school auditorium, fingers wrapped tightly around a folded piece of paper she never unfolded. The room was full parents. Teachers, local officials, even a few reporters who had learned that when this family spoke, something honest followed. Marcus sat in the second row, hands clasped, heart heavier than it had been in months. Aaliyah stepped closer to the microphone. She took a breath and asked, "Why do systems say sorry if they don't plan to change?" The room didn't react. It absorbed. A city councilman shifted in his seat. A teacher swallowed. The journalists slowly lowered their camera. Aaliyah continued, voice steady. "My dad says people make rules to keep things safe. But sometimes rules forget people. When that happens, who fixes the rules? Silence. Not the uncomfortable kind. The thinking kind." Marcus felt it then. The realization that had been circling him for months. This was never about him. He hadn't been the spark. He had been the proof. After the assembly, people didn't rush the stage. They lined up to talk, to listen, to admit things they had never said out loud. A security supervisor approached Marcus quietly. "I changed how I train my team," the man said. "Because of you," Marcus nodded. "Because of her." The man followed his gaze to Aaliyah. Weeks turned into months. The forums became self-sustaining. Communities hosted them without permission or branding. People learned how to speak without performing. Schools adopted new curriculum, titled after movements, but after values, accountability, presence, human impact. Marcus stepped back. Deliberately, he declined interviews. Passed invitations too. Others redirected attention, because movements don't survive heroes, they survive participants. One evening, Marcus found Aaliyah on the porch again, writing in her notebook. "Do you still write the same sentence?" he asked. She smiled and turned the page. A new one was written now. "Power changes when it's asked the right questions." Marcus sat beside her. "You know," he said, "some people will forget my name." "That's okay," Aaliyah replied. "They'll remember the question." Across the country, policy changes slowed. That was expected. What didn't slow was behavior. Managers paused before making assumptions. Teachers intervened earlier. Guards hesitated, not out of fear, but awareness. Something had shifted beneath the surface. The quiet kind. Years later, Marcus watched from the back of a university lecture hall. Aaliyah stood at the podium. Older now, taller, still calm. She didn't accuse. She asked questions, and the world leaned forward. Marcus smiled not with pride, but with peace, because humanity doesn't always ascend in fire or war or victory speeches. Sometimes, humanity ascends the moment someone asks a question that power can never unhear.